burden of responsibility in effective psychotherapy. Milton H. Erickson. The following case material is presented because it offers so concisely and clearly a modus operandi in a hypnotherapy with a type of patients who have had long experience in failing to derive desired benefits from extensive, traditionally oriented therapy. The 3 persons reported upon are typical of dozens of others that this author has seen over the years, and the results obtained have been remarkably good, despite the fact that the patients were seen on only one occasion for an hour or 2. In each instance, hypnosis was used for the specific purpose of placing the burden of responsibility for the therapeutic results upon the patient himself, after he himself had reached a definite conclusion that therapy would not help and that a last resort would be a hypnotic miracle. In this author's understanding of psychotherapy, if a patient wants to believe in a hypnotic miracle so strongly that he will undertake the responsibility of making a recovery by virtue of his own actual behavior and continue that recovery, he is at liberty to do so under whatever guise he chooses. But neither the author nor the reader is obliged to regard the success of the therapy as a hypnotic miracle. Case 1 and 2. A telephone call was received in the office from a man who stated that he wanted an appointment. He refused to give any reason except that it was for a proper medical reason. He preferred to explain in person. At the interview, the man stated that he was suffering from Buerger's disease, that he was a diabetic, and he had cardiac disease and high blood pressure. Too much for a man with a family the size of mine and only 50 years old. He went on, "That isn't all. I've been psychoanalyzed for 8 months for 5 hours a week. During that time, my insulin dosage has had to be increased. I've been gained 40 pounds. My blood pressure has gone up 35 points. And from 1.5 packs of cigarettes, I have gone up to 4.5 packs a day. I am still the psychoanalyst's patient. I have an appointment with him for Monday, but he is paid up to date. He says he's slowly uncovering the psychodynamics of my self-destructive behavior. I myself think that I'm digging my grave with power tools." Then, with utter gravity, he asked, "Would it be unethical for you, knowing that I am another physician's patient, to give me the benefit of 2 hours of hypnotherapy this afternoon? My analyst disapproves of hypnosis, but he certainly hasn't done me any good." A very interesting comment by Rossi, the co-author of this paper. Note the client's intuitive understanding that 2 hours will be required to accomplish his inner creative work. Today, I hypothesize this is an example of our natural basic rest activity cycle, a so-called mind-body ultradian rhythm that usually requires 90 to 120 minutes in everyday life. While awake, this is a natural rhythm of most life activities: work, play, seeing movies, etc. While asleep, this is the natural rhythm of our slow-wave sleep and REM dream cycle for updating consciousness, memory, and behavior on all levels from mind to gene. I hypothesize this is why Erickson utilized about 90 to 120 minutes as the length of his typical sessions of therapeutic hypnosis and psychotherapy with his patients. The simple reply was made that, from my point of view, the question of professional ethics did not enter into the situation at all, that every patient, including mine, has the right to seek from any duly trained and licensed physician whatever proper help he desires, that medical ethics should properly be centered about the patient's welfare rather than a physician's desire to keep a patient. He was then told to close his eyes and repeat his story from beginning beginning to end, to do this slowly, carefully, to drop out the question of ethics and, in its place, to specify what he wanted from the author. This he was to do slowly, thoughtfully, appraisingly, and as he did so, the mere sound of his own voice would serve to induce in him a satisfactory trance in which he could continue to talk to the author. Listen to the author, answer questions, do anything asked of him by the author, and that he would find himself under a most powerful compulsion to do exactly that which was indicated. These words are not a formal induction to hypnosis in the casual sense, where the patient realizes he's being put into a hypnotic trance. However, we can now recognize how these words are actually trance-inducing for this patient who is so interested in his own story that it focused his attention with high expectancy, the two characteristics of therapeutic hypnosis. I now call this an Ericksonian bridge between therapeutic hypnosis and psychotherapy, as we practice it today. Erickson often did not distinguish between formally induced therapeutic hypnosis and the general walk-in trance, when his patients were in a state of high expectancy and focused attention. The man was taken back at these unexpected instructions, but leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes, and slowly began his recitation with pertinent additions. Shortly, his voice began to trail off, indicating that he was developing a trance, and he had to be told several times to speak more loudly and clearly. No mention was made of the question of ethics, but with a wealth of detail he outlined the therapy which he thought to be indicated. He was asked to repeat this several times, and each time he did so more positively, empathically, and inclusively. After 4 of these repetitions, the author pointed out that he, as a physician, had offered no advice or therapeutic or corrective suggestions, that every item in that regard had come from the patient himself, and that he would find himself under the powerful compulsion arising from within him to do everything that he thought was indicated. To this was added that he could remember any selected parts of his trance state, but regardless of what he remembered or did not remember, he would be under a most powerful compulsion to do all that he himself thought to be indicated. He was aroused. A casual conversation initiated and he left. A year later, in an excellent physical shape, he brought in an old childhood friend of his and stated very briefly, "I eat right, I sleep good, my weight is normal, my habits regular, my diabetes is under good control, my Buerger's disease has not progressed, my blood pressure is normal, I never went back to my analyst, my business is better than ever, I am a new man and my whole family thanks you. Now, this man is my boyhood pal. He's got emphysema, a very bad heart. Look at his swollen ankles, and he smokes like a chimney. He's been under doctor's care for years. This man was smoking 1 cigarette and had another out of the package ready to light. Treat him the way you did me, because I told him you talk to me in a way that just takes complete hold of you." He left the office with the new patient remaining. Essentially, the same procedure was carried out, checking against the first patient's file as this was done, and almost precisely the same words were used that were applicable. At the close of the interview, the man left, leaving his cigarettes behind him. 6 months later, a long-distance call was received from the first patient stating, "Well, the news is bad, but you should feel good. Joe died last night in his sleep from a coronary attack. After he left your office, he never smoked another cigarette. His emphysema was much better, and he enjoyed life instead of worrying all the time about running out of cigarettes and about the cigarettes making his condition worse."